There's something unsettling about objects that have outlived the people who once held them. A chair that creaks in an empty room, a doll whose glass eyes seem to follow you when no one else is there, an old music box that begins to play long after the key was last turned off. Throughout history, people have believed that certain objects can hold more than memories. They can hold energy, emotion, sometimes something even darker. From cursed paintings to possessed toys to ordinary items that carry extraordinary and terrifying stories. These objects are said to be touched by something beyond our understanding. Skeptics say it's coincidence, imagination, and clever storytelling. Believers say that these items are vessels, haunted by spirits that refuse to move on. Tonight, we open the cabinet to the strange and the supernatural. So dim the lights, listen closely, and whatever you do, be careful what you bring into your home, because some objects never truly belong to the living.
What do you see when you're in the dark and the demons come?
1, 2, married stories for you.
Welcome to Buried Stories. I'm Jeff Mercurio. Along with me again is Wendell Brown, Steve, and Tyler. Welcome, guys.
Hey, Jeff.
What's up?
Hey, thanks for
You
having
know,
me.
Throughout history, we've been told stories about haunted objects, and you see that a lot in Hollywood movies and, things like that. Movies, magazines, and back when I was younger, I didn't really put much thought into it. But then I do think that not residual energy, that's the wrong word to use for me. I do think that spirits can inhabit objects, inanimate objects. And if you don't believe me, you could kind of take a look, and we'll go back to the ancient days at some of these polytheist civilizations. They would make gods out of, let's say, stone, wood, whatever, stone or wood, and that they would actually do a ritual over these objects and say that it was possessed with what they called a god, be it Moloch, Baal, Diana, you name it. And what these objects are said to do is kind of put sort of thoughts into your head so you keep worshiping this god, this artifact. I mean, it's just wood or it's just metal, but it does something to you. So what do you guys think about haunted objects? We'll start with Wendell. Do you take any thought into haunted objects?
Not really. I just hit the mainstream ones, the Dorian Gray legend, that kind of thing. What was that one it was in the movies? He couldn't look at his own painting. He kept his youth
Oh, yeah,
until he
yeah.
looked at his painting. And I mentioned to you guys earlier, the crystal skulls are an interesting one to me. When all 9, I think, are brought together, that's supposed to do something pretty bad. Never ran across any haunted objects. I've seen a couple documentaries on some couple has a museum of haunted objects. That was pretty eye-opening, one in particular. But no, I don't put much stock in it, Jeff, just because I haven't experienced it. It's neat. they're neat mysteries of the world. Especially the one Tyler mentioned a minute ago. How many fires has that painting been through that you were talking about, Tyler?
Over 60,
And
and they survived all of them.
60 fires, and it survived all of them. So that stuff's pretty neat to me, and could be something to it, I guess. But in general, I don't think of objects being haunted. Now, the biggest legend to me is the Ark of the Covenant that you can't touch. That object. That's why they have to carry it with the poles through it. Never could figure out why they had to, through all my younger years when they were carrying the Ark around, you'd see pictures of them carrying the Ark and paintings, but it's because God will kill you if you touch the Ark. So, so it's neat stories to me, but nothing I've really ever ran into myself.
So, Steve, I'm sorry, Tyler, talking about the crying boy painting. Talk to us a little bit about that one.
Well, apparently the subject of the painting was a orphan. According to Mario, the subject of one of his paintings was a little street urchin that he came across in Madrid in the 1960s. The young boy was a mute orphan with a sorrowful expression that instantly captivated the artist. Amadio had stopped to paint the child when a Catholic priest came over to issue him a stern warning. He said that the boy, named Don Bonillo, had run away after seeing his parents die in a fire, which I thought that was pretty interesting. And not only did the painting survive over 60 house fires, Amadio's studio and apartment actually caught fire as well. And there's a lot of weird things surrounding this painting that a lot of it is just kind of unexplainable. It's just really weird.
I heard one of the things about that painting is that boy actually comes out of that painting, or has said to have come out of that painting.
Well, I don't like
Do you
that
know where
one.
the painting is now?
No, I do not.
That'd be worth a trip.
Yeah. Steve, what do you got on haunted objects?
Well, it's interesting. There's I think maybe this might have been what Wendell was talking about, but there's a couple. Their name is Satori Hawes, who is, I don't know if you guys are big into Ghost Hunters, the old show, one of the originals. Jason Hawes' daughter, that's Satori Hawes, she dates a gentleman named Cody Despians, and I've had the pleasure of meeting them twice. They have a haunted object museum up in New England, I believe. And what's fascinating is I've heard them talk on shows about it, and they receive things in many different ways. A lot of people will mail them stuff anonymously and just say, "Hey, I don't want this." And they'll try to find out some backstory, but then they'll also get objects that have nothing, no backstory. Just somebody rings a doorbell and there's this little, let's say, pot or doll or some object that somebody believes is haunted. Now, they have a protocol that they follow, which I find interesting. They have not only the museum, but they have this other room where they will put the object in that room for several days by itself. They have all sorts of measurements in there, EMF detectors. They have cameras on it. They have different ways, temperature control. And essentially, over those couple days, this object is locked in the room, and they're waiting to find out if something changes with it, because they don't want to just add it to the museum. They're actually trying to do some measurements on it or scientific. I don't really know what you can essentially do to prove an object's haunted or not, but I think they're trying to take the proper scientific approach, which is to try to take measurements, see if the room and anything in the room changes. And it's fascinating because a lot of it comes down, we were talking in our last show about intentions and the Ouija boards, right? People talk a lot about haunted objects and intentions as well. And, when they receive an object, they have no idea what the potentially the backstory is. They don't know if it's evil. They don't know if it's good. They don't know what's attached potentially. I've always heard that you don't go buy used jewelry because humans wear jewelry direct skin contact. And if you've, let's say your wedding ring, you've worn your potentially your wedding ring. Men, we wear our bands constantly, right? There's something, it's almost like if we look at it from a Harry Potter standpoint for a second here, the Horcrux, right? Like he was able to divide himself in what, 6 or 7 objects, which supported his life. I'm not going to go to that crazy length, but I'm going to say that, you know, something that you might be very much in love with or something you're attached to in life, when you pass, it doesn't mean my spirit potentially takes over that object. I think that there are objects that potentially have something like that, but there might be an essence of who I am left in a ring or maybe in my case, in a pair of sweet ass Jordans that I purchased. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they actually say never to buy used jewelry because a lot of that stuff could carry the former owner's feelings, emotions. It might not be haunted in the sense of, you're going to start having spoons disappear and stuff like that, but it might be more about how you feel when you wear that object, right?
Well, a lot of it does come down to like emotions afterwards. Once you bring something into your home, you could feel dizzy all the time, anxiety ridden, have nightmares. What do you guys take? How do you guys feel about curses? If somebody curses something, do you guys take stock in curses? Anybody?
You know what? I'll say this. I do think because it's again goes back to intention with curses, right? The weird thing is, yes, I can imagine. I'll give you an example. I was given by an old girlfriend. I was given a gold chain that she had found at Mark's. Somebody had turned it in. It was a men's gold chain. I think it was like the Italian cut. You know what I mean? And, I can't remember. I think it was either like 14 karat gold. It was a nice chain, right? But I always felt like when I wore it, my mood was down and sometimes bad things would happen. And you know what? I had no idea about the history of that necklace. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was haunted. But eventually I moved down here to Columbus and I wore it another time or two, had some other weird things happen with it. Like I can't remember exactly what the stories were, but I think one of them was a car accident. And now look, probably had nothing to do with the chain, but I ended up giving it away to somebody because I was like, dude, I don't know. I feel like something's up with this chain. Now, I told him that when I handed him, he's probably sitting there like, dude, gave me a gold chain. And obviously today's gold price is probably worth quite a bit, but
Yeah, yeah.
to me at the time, I felt like the chain wasn't mine. It didn't belong to me. And therefore, whenever I was going to wear that chain, now I don't know if that means a curse, Jeff, but I'll tell you, there was something about that chain. I just gave it away.
Wendell, do you take any stock in curses?
I do.
Do you?
I do. From the right sources. Yes. Not from anybody. But we have a friend from Jamaica whose wife is really into voodoo. Voodoo's like the gin to me.
Mhm.
For Steve. I don't want to mess with it. It's something different about it. And when you put your heart and soul and all your being into something, I think, like I said, we shape the universe, and some people shape it differently. And when you have either so much hatred, so much passion, so much where it's every fiber of your being, yeah, I think you can force reality. And like I said, I would be, as a curse from somebody who practices voodoo, absolutely. I would. I'd be leery of that. Like we talked about the Ouija board. There's a reason none of us have one in our house.
Yeah,
So it's really hard for us to just say, no, it's just a board game.
right.
So the yeah, yeah, but I don't think that just because I get mad at you, I can curse you and it's going to work. No, but I think with the right origins, um, yeah.
Tyler, how about you as far as curses go?
I do believe in curses. Personally, I have no experience with them. I have never tried to curse an object, nor have I had any experience with a object that was cursed. But I definitely believe that you can't curse an object, especially if you're doing like some sort of ritual. And when it comes to whether or not like objects can be cursed, that I'm not entirely sure of. I do believe that ghosts or demons can move in objects, but whether or not they can actually like be in them, I don't know about that because I do believe they could possess a human because we have a soul and we're a living creature. But whether or not they could possess a chair that doesn't have a soul, that I'm not sure if I believe in that.
Hmm. The
What about
reason
you,
I
Ben?
bring up curses is, you know, over the past, what, maybe 10 years, there's such an uptick in occultism and witchcraft that's going on in this country right now that it makes me think that since occultism has rituals and stuff like that, that maybe some of the stuff that you see in Goodwill would have something just to pass along. I mean, you see s- some crazy objects, even some of the nice objects. Like take for instance, if I saw the Dybbuk box in Goodwill, I'd be like, oh, that looks good. I could redo that. And then you bring it into the house, and there's a lot surrounding the Dybbuk box, and even Post Malone has a story about that one.
You know, Usually curse has a negative connotation to it. Do you believe in blessings, Jeff?
Yes.
I think it's the origin.
Yeah.
I think you can be blessed, um, not by anybody, but I think with the right origins, the right goodness behind it, um, and you having some goodness in you, I think you can be blessed as well as you can be cursed.
Yeah. I mean, I do believe in blessings, but if that person is sending me a blessing, I mean, he's asking my maker to bless me. And so if a blessing comes upon me, it's from him, not from the person who sent it out. You know what I
Well,
mean?
it's the same thing with a curse. I don't think a
Well, yeah.
person curses you. They're bringing some wicked ass
Right, right.
horn dude to help.
So yeah, yeah. So let's talk about some haunted objects. Some famous ones here. Steve, we'll go to you. What do you got as far as a famous haunted object?
Well, let's start with Robert the Doll. That's one that really comes up to me. That makes me think, Wendell, what we always talk about. One of those things that I just don't want to dive into. Like supposedly this doll, I want to say made in the late 1800s. I mean, you guys can go look up the story. It'll tell you all about the background. It's sitting now in a museum down in Florida, and it's a doll where a lot of people have some terrible curse stories. It's a doll that you're supposed to ask permission before you take any photographs, and you're not supposed to talk bad about it either. And there's so many stories of people leaving that museum who didn't believe the story and had something bad or multiple bad things happen to them on the way home or when they got home, to the point that the museum actually receives letter after letter daily of people asking forgiveness from Robert, because they feel like in their heart that they've been cursed because of what they did, which is they could have took a picture without asking for permission. I mean, you want to talk about stories of goes into everything we talked about, curses and all. I mean, look, whether you believe it or not, I mean, go check out. That's a fascinating story. But Robert
Yeah.
the doll, that's the first one that pops up to me.
Yeah, I agree with that one. That was a creepy story, especially with how many people, because you could say, haunted objects, they don't exist. Well, the proof's in all those apology letters flooding into the museum. Somebody takes it seriously. If bad things are happening constantly, and you're like, there's got to be a coincidence, or this has got to be going in hand with something that I did, and Robert the doll comes to mind. You better send him an apology. Tyler,
Absolutely.
what else you got as far as a haunted object? Give me a good one.
I really like, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it is the Busby Stoop chair. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, I did. The rocking
Yeah,
chair,
it,
not the rocking
yeah,
chair. It's
nah,
a chair. I think it is a rocking chair.
it is a
Give me the
rocking
history
chair.
on that one.
Yeah, the Busby Stoop chair, or also known as the Dead Man's chair, is an oak chair that was supposedly cursed by the murderer Thomas Busby before his execution by hanging in 1702 in North Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. And he murdered his father-in-law. And once he was arrested at, I forget what inn it was, but when he was being arrested, he supposedly turned to the chair and cursed it and said that whoever sits in that chair will meet their ultimate end. And I mean, it's kind of an urban legend now, but it says that whoever sits in that chair will ultimately die soon after, or quote unquote, be dragged straight to hell. Whether or not you believe that, it's up to you. But I personally really like this story.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I did read, uh, well, I saw that in a something I watched about the chair. I mean, that's a really good one. And I know
That's great.
everybody's heard about Annabelle, the
Yeah.
Annabelle
Oh,
doll.
about the Annabelle doll, in the movie, it's depicted to be this like really creepy looking doll, but in reality,
Mhm.
it's the I forget what's.
Raggedy Ann.
Yeah, that's right. It's just a
It's
Raggedy
a
Ann
Raggedy Ann
Raggedy
doll.
doll.
Ann doll. Yes, it is. Yep.
Yep. It's the
Which if
most
you ask
innocent
me, that's
looking
kind of
doll.
creepier than the doll they used in the movie.
Yeah, yeah, it could be.
Absolutely.
That story began in 1970 when a nursing student named Donna received a Raggedy Ann doll as a gift from her mother. Donna lived in a small apartment with her roommate Angie. And some of her stories go back to this doll would change positions when nobody was home. It would appear in different rooms. That sometimes it was found with its legs crossed or arms folded, which the soft cloth doll shouldn't have been able to do on its own. So, I mean, this thing, it's got has a lot of stories that it is attached to this one, and it's been handed down. There's the movie about it, The Conjuring. Uh, but I couldn't imagine a doll getting a doll like at Goodwill, and you set it on the couch as you left the house, and when you got home, it was sitting in the chair at the kitchen, you know, with its
Yeah.
legs crossed. Man, I'm telling you, that would be wild.
What's this box
Apparently
you keep
that
referring to?
Oh, the Dybbuk box. Steve, do you got anything on the Dybbuk box?
You know, from from my understanding, it goes back to a ritual performed in order to trap a spirit into a box, a spirit that potentially is haunting, a spirit that's potentially it could be malevolent, but it's definitely a nuisance spirit. And so it's my understanding. Look, I'm not exactly 100% on this. I could be wrong, and you guys could correct me if you read it. It is this the Dybbuk box. Does this have something to do with the Jewish cult like faith? Isn't that have to do with it with the whole purpose behind the Dybbuk? Is that am I wrong about that?
it's
No, the
a
Dybbuk
concept
is,
from Jewish mythology, apparently.
yeah,
Okay, so I was right about that, and but yeah, I mean, I've heard, I think everybody's probably heard of the Dybbuk box if you follow anything into the paranormal. But yeah, please.
Right, the Dybbuk box was this wine box, Wendell, and it first surfaced online in 2001 when a man named Kevin Manis listed a small antique wine cabinet on eBay. According to Manis, strange events began happening almost immediately after he bought the box home. Nightmares of an old hag, shadowy figures, strange smells like jasmine and cat urine, lights and electronics malfunction, and sudden illness among family members. Now, as far as the Dybbuk box goes, is I think this lady owned the Dybbuk box. She was a Holocaust survivor,
Mhm.
and there's some items that was inside of the Dybbuk box itself. I think a candle, an unlit candle, couple strands of hair that was tied on both ends, and I think like a Jewish prayer or something. But the Dybbuk is from the Jewish folklore. It's a malicious spirit that can possess somebody, and you could capture it too. And it was captured in this box, and it's been it's at Zach Bagan's museum of haunted objects, and just his museum now. So, and even goes as far as Post Malone. He had some string of odd events happen when he visited that museum. It it's been said that he touched it, but that wasn't how it happened. Zach Bagans had his hand on the box or was touching the box, and Post Malone was just touching his shoulder. And after that, like Post Malone had jet malfunctions with his personal jet, two car accidents, uh, had his house broken into. So he had like a string of bad events happen after he chalks it up to just being in contact with the box. So it's another thing.
Yeah. Something fascinating. Um, the real exorcist, right? What's the guy's name? Something Doe. You know what I'm talking about? The real story.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was in St. Louis, is my understanding. Okay. And this was the actual real exorcisms performed on this. The guy's still alive today. Okay. But the furniture that was in the room when these exorcists were performed, supposedly these furniture objects were locked away in a room for years. Years. They sealed these things away for a very long time. And now, supposedly, these pieces of furniture have been sold off. Where to? Nobody actually knows. I mean, I'm certain somebody's got to know, but supposedly the same furniture that were in the room at the time. So if you think something's either cursed, haunted, or something, whoever sealed that furniture away for many, and I'm talking like, I think somebody said 30 years that furniture was sealed
Wow.
away.
Yeah.
It was a long period of time. I'm not sure if it was 30, but they said this stuff hadn't seen the light of day in decades.
Right.
So whoever put that away definitely thought that there was something to a haunted object or maybe cursed objects, right?
Yeah. And I guess you gotta understand that the object itself doesn't have to have like a ritual or a curse put on it. Uh, you take a child who's been like human trafficking going on with this child. And one of the captors gave it this, let's say, the Raggedy Ann doll, and she's going through this, and her life is hell because of that. Well, and she, let's say, unfortunately passes away, and that Raggedy Ann doll ends up in a yard sale somewhere. But whoever takes it home, I mean, there's a lot of negative energy attached to that. And a lot of the times it's because a ritual happened around this doll. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a ritual that sort of like a, I don't know, an organized ritual, a black mass or something, just a ritual of like human trafficking and stuff. That would have a lot of negative connotation towards whoever it's happening to and whatever object is attached to that person. And so that kind of flows out, and it can, I think it could mess with your mind a lot and your dreams. I hear a lot of nightmares going on around these haunted objects and stuff.
Well,
I wonder
there's
how that dragon dude
there's
Yeah.
a
does.
huge trade in it now. Just go over to eBay, right? You can go as soon as this show is done, and you can go just type in haunted dolls, and I promise you, you're gonna come across quite a few haunted dolls, like, or at least dolls that people are saying are haunted. And
Right.
people are purchasing them too. That's the thing about it. Like, this isn't just somebody selling them. People are actually buying them all the time. And and then when I used to listen to this psychic, Marianne Winkowski, I've talked about her before. When she was on Coast to Coast AM, people would call Coast to Coast and they would say, "Hey, I'm having some weird things happen at home." And Marianne, boy, she was a spitfire. She would tell the people directly where the spirit was at in the house, how old they were, what they looked like, and actually tell you what object the person bought. And a lot of times, believe it or not, this is going to sound strange, but a lot of times it was like tools that somebody bought at a garage sale.
Hmm.
Now, think about it. The one, like, objects that you would never think would potentially have some sort of haunting. And again, this wasn't a malevolent haunting that the person was calling in. They were hearing noises in their house. They were experiencing things being moved around, things like that. It wasn't necessarily evil to them, but
Right.
it had just started, however many months earlier or weeks earlier. And Marianne would actually tell him, like, "Hey, you bought this tool, this wrench set at a garage sale, and unfortunately, it came with this 40-some-year-old gentleman."
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
just trying to do. So, it's interesting what makes an object haunted. I think it goes back to what you're saying, Jeff, is that it could be a lot of bad experiences with an object, right? But at the same time, you have the flip side of that, which has nothing to do with curses, but maybe something somebody loved and appreciated, right? If somebody has a necklace that they've loved, or maybe has been given down through generations, right? That object, one might call it haunted from one perspective, but one might call it spiritual or say, "Hey, this has a family spirit to it," right? So,
Hmm.
it's interesting. But now, is either object one haunted more than the other? Well, I would assume that the evil objects, or the objects that have come from a long line of negative feelings or experiences, would obviously probably be worse to have at home than it maybe the loving or the tools that some 40 something year old or 50 something year old guy used to work on his Harley Davidson until he had a heart attack. And he loved those. He kept those snap on tools for 30 some years. And he
Hmm.
remembered the day he was able to afford them. You see what I'm saying? Like, isn't it? It's amazing what goes into an object, whether good, bad, or indifferent, that would make that potentially carry something beyond what the object is, right?
Yeah. 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 Tyler.
What do you think, Tyler?
I just want to say I really liked what Steve said. Maybe it has nothing to do with negative energy, or maybe it's just an object that they are really attached to. Because I was thinking, like, maybe your example is a tool that a guy worked with his car with, but maybe for me it would be like my guitar that I'm gonna have for the rest of my life that I use every single day. But then maybe my kids don't want it, and then they sell it. But I am so deeply attached to that object, that guitar. Maybe like I'll be around that guitar even after I die. You don't know. But I really like that perspective that maybe it's not something necessarily evil or demonic or negative. Might be the opposite of that actually.
Love
It
and
kind of
passion.
gives me a different perspective on that.
Gotcha.
Love and passion.
That's right.
Think about it. What feeling to humans is more powerful than love? I think love conquers all, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think you bring up a great point, Tyler. We could probably have a whole separate show about rock stars or famous musicians and items that they played, right? They all had special instruments, and would that and I bet if you asked that rock star or whoever, um, do you think you'd be as famous if you didn't have that guitar that you first, made that song with or this and that? And they probably tell you no. A lot of them name the objects, right? Jeff,
Oh, that's
when you
right.
had guitars, right?
Mhm.
Jeff, you had guitars, you always had a name for it, right? We name our cars. I know I name my car every single time. I always have a name for my car, and it's weird because it's just the tools and pieces and an engine and tires, but to me it carries personality, right? And every car I've had was a little bit different from the last one. So I think it's an interesting human again, Jeff, you brought it up, the Zach Baggins Haunted Museum, which
Mhm.
I don't know if Jeff, if you're aware of, or Tyler, if you're aware of, but your brother and your son, Jeff, he visited that haunted museum,
Yeah.
said it
Yeah.
was an amazing place to be. Like he said, it blew his mind, but he said there were rooms he went in that were just downright scary, that the second you crossed the threshold into that room, your whole feeling changed.
Right.
And so, it's just objects in a room. What changed?
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
guys
That's
heard of
right.
the Golden Rock?
The
No.
Golden Rock. That's a new one for
Yeah.
me.
Just saw a documentary on it. It's over in India or something. And it's a Buddhist worship place. Anyway, it's a big boulder, and it's on the edge of a cliff, but a cliff that's like 20 feet high, and people walk under it and they kneel, and whole just groups of people. It's where they worship and everything. The boulder is so big, they built a monastery on top of it. And the reason it's gold is because when people, you see it there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what it
Oh,
looks
When
like.
yeah.
the reason it's gold is because the way people, it's sort of like the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
When people visit it, because it's one of those Mecca places that people go see, but they take this piece of paper and it has gold leaf on it. And when they go up there, they put the gold leaf on the stone. So over the however many years it's been an attraction or there, people have been putting gold leaf on it. So now the whole thing's gold from all the gold
Amazing.
leaf layer to layer. But if you look at that picture, do you know what they say holds it up, why it doesn't fall? The legend is that Buddha put one hair under it, and that's what's holding it up.
Wow.
And
Learn
that
something new every day.
they have
Yeah.
I mean, they can't explain why it doesn't go, because 3/4 of it's over the edge.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. A new story I haven't seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
Again, there's a ritualistic surrounding that Golden Rock now too. If people are coming up to worship it, it takes on a life of its own.
Now, Dad, how do you
Well,
think someone
yeah.
can specifically curse an object? Like, what do they have to do to curse that object? Do they just have to say something to it, or do they have to perform something specific?
I think
I
it's
don't.
intention, Tyler. It's intention. Because look, you might accidentally curse somebody and not even know you did it to them, right?
Yeah.
Like seriously, you might like somebody. You might say something to somebody and not even intentionally put a curse on them, but the intention behind what you might have said could have sparked something. Now, who knows if it's spiritual? Who knows what it, But again, I think a lot of it goes back to the intention. What was the intention?
Well,
Um,
this is where I agree with Jeff. I agree with him on most everything, but on the demon thing, because I do think they're out there watching and seeing when you're vulnerable. And there's a reason, Tyler, why there's so many words to explain one emotion like anger. You got anger, hatred, blah, 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 but you get up to rage, and things like that. And I think at some level, maybe something that's just staring down on us says, yep, there's our opening right there. And that's where maybe a curse comes from. So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
if you guys ever want to look into haunted objects, I'm going to give you a name. They call him the godfather of the paranormal. Swear to you. His name is John Zaffis. This guy was close to uh, Lorraine and them. He was close to them. He is known to have a lot of history with haunted objects. He travels the world and talks about haunted objects. I've met him a couple times at Parapsychon, which is the one they have at Mansfield Reformatory every May. I go there. It's an amazing event, a fantastic event. And I've met a lot of these wonderful people. That's where I also met Satori Hawes and Cody Despians. They call them the paranormal couple. But they both, John Zaffis has a history. He's been on shows and everything talking about haunted objects. Same thing. People would send him stuff. And, we just had the conversation in our last show about Ouija boards. And the guy I was telling you about, John Kovic, who runs the witch board or the talking spirit board museum, one of them. And he talks about people who drop off Ouija boards all the time who they think is either cursed, haunted. It's weird because it's never a positive spirit, by the way, that they believe is haunting the Ouija board.
yeah.
But regardless, he said a lot of times he doesn't even know how he got them. But, talk about a haunted object, right? Ouija board's probably at the top of our list, even though we didn't read a lot of stories about them. We had a whole show talking about it. So, and again, it went back to intention and everything. So, I'll leave you guys with this. I absolutely believe things can either be cursed. I do believe things can be haunted. I do think things themselves could have some sort of feeling on who you are and your emotions. And so I do believe that things can be haunted, and I do think that things can carry an essence, whether good, bad, or indifferent, to them. However it happened, I don't necessarily know.
I would concur with Steve, Tyler, on the haunted objects. I don't think no matter what the object is, it's gonna throw a chair at you or crush you with a table. May make you forget to turn off the stove. May make you forget to, and cause a fire. Things like that. But I don't think a haunted object's gonna hurl a lamp at you or anything. But I think it could possibly affect you emotionally. Not just emotionally. What do you call it, Jeff? Just mentally, your capacities.
Yeah, your emotions and yeah.
Well, yeah, and just leaving something plugged in when you shouldn't, um, and things like that. So, yeah.
You also told
Next.
me a couple days ago that movies and music can also be cursed if they perform like a curse on like the master tapes, like the original recordings of like a song, that they curse the original recording of that song, and then they like make copies and distribute them. All those copies will also be cursed. Is that right?
Yeah. If you go into Hollywood, even nowadays, there's a lot of occultism on the soft, ugly underbelly of Hollywood. And I heard somebody was talking about it. and during the 30s and 40s, the big occult that was going around America here went to Hollywood. What they did was they taught these Hollywood people how to curse a movie because, like Steve said, it's all intentions. Well, you can curse a movie to intend to get more viewership and to be a blockbuster and this or that. Well, they taught these people in Hollywood some type of way to curse these original the master a tape that was made during this movie. They would curse the master, and then every copy that came off of that carried the curse as well. And so it would go out, and viewership would go up. I mean, you look at Disney, Walt Disney, and with some of the things, the hidden innuendos in Walt Disney, uh, like there was one, The Little Mermaid. What was the Little Mermaid innuendo in that one? Was it the like penis
Wasn't it
in
the
the
covers?
castle? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that and
Yep.
I got another one. Apparently, in that movie, when they're getting married, the guy that's like doing the ceremony, apparently he's got like a hard one going on. Apparently, if you catch my
Right.
drift.
Yeah. But
I didn't
anyway,
know that one.
like
Yeah,
I
it
didn't
was
know that one, Tyler.
right, but that's just the hidden aspects of the occult that's under Hollywood. Well, they also taught the pornography industry how to curse like their tape. So it would mess with the male mind to keep consuming this. And then it went from that to the music industry. I mean, you get those earworms from hearing a song, and you run and buy the album now, and then that album goes gold. And it's just a fascinating thing that has to do with the occult and the Hollywood underbelly.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, and I think we've come back to that kind of circle, whether something is cursed, whether it's something, because look, if I believe if something can be cursed or evil or hold that kind of intention, I think something could probably hold a positive one too. If you have always heard those stories of people keeping a lucky rabbit's foot in their pocket, right? Like
Yeah.
I've heard that people keep objects back in World War II. People would keep objects with them to come back from a bombing raid, right? They would keep certain objects with them that reminded them of loved ones that they thought were extremely lucky. If I have this coin in my pocket, right, I'm going to be lucky. So I think it carries both ways. I really do. I think it's one of those balanced things. And what led to it, whether it was something positive or something negative that led to it. We talk more about the negative haunted things or
Oh,
the
yeah.
things that we think are cursed because people like to hear those stories. They're scary. They get you amped. Oh my God, could that happen to me and stuff like that. But I think there's a lot to be said about the positive ones too, and we're just not as aware of them.
The
You
Holy
know?
Grail. The
Yeah.
Holy
Holy
Grail,
Grail.
if you believe it's a cup and not Mary Magdalene, because she's been called the Holy Grail also. But
That's true.
if you believe it's a cup, there's one.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. They said that the cup used to give life, right?
Yep.
Be able to
Eternal life.
heal. You name it. So keep you young. We have we had the fountain of youth, right? That many has spent many eternity looking for down in potentially Florida, right?
It's
So
down here.
yeah, it's interesting. I think it's very
Yeah, I
interesting.
live 3 miles from it. It's got a big sign out in
Nice.
front of it.
Yes, it does. Yeah. That's why we look so young down here in Florida, Steve. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for the evening. Thank you guys for putting in your input into haunted objects and curses and whatnot. But ladies and gentlemen at home, If you like the show, leave a comment below, hit that like button, subscribe. And I'll tell you what, something's going on if you're having nightmares or something moving around in the house. Think back of what you just brought into the house. Just an idea. Thank you.